David DeGuzman inside the NBC4 Digital Center for the latest edition of the Digital Sports Roundtable, and this is a championship edition. So, what better way to put a championship in perspective than getting joined by our very own Jerod Smalley? A month ago, we were here in the aftermath of the Michigan loss, and here we are a month later, and the Buckeyes national champions. And they always make this distinction: 9th overall, yes, but they also say 7th in the AP poll era, which I always kind of laugh at.
Yeah.
Got a lot to talk about, but not much time. Let's start with the game itself. It seemed like this was going to be another one of those lopsided national championship games. Until it wasn't. Notre Dame made a ferocious comeback, and then of course we saw what I would call the play that put the nail in the coffin with Jeremiah Smith from Will Howard. When you look at this game, what do you think is going to be the lasting memory from the 60 minutes that we saw in Atlanta?
Well, I mean, in terms of a play, it's going to be the Jeremiah Smith play, but I think the overall memorable element of it is the celebration of a group of seniors who devoted themselves to a cause bigger than themselves and decided to forego pretty significant money in the NFL. Thankfully, they did so in an era of name, image, and likeness when they could do so and make pretty good money right where they were. And that group getting to accomplish a dream when November 30th didn't seem like that was going to be a thing at all for them. And many people on December 20th picked them to lose at home to Tennessee. People who are very smart football people didn't think that they would be able to recover and get an offensive line plan together. I think that's what I'm going to remember most is just the group, not necessarily the individual. And maybe that's why they're the national champion today, because it is the sum of the parts that is truly unique in Ohio State history. They've had great teams. They've obviously, as you mentioned, David, they've had national champion teams. First one they've had in a decade. But, all those teams have a common theme. They're all very, very good at football. This one, I think, is uniquely bound by their devotion to the institution and to each other. That is, even for those great teams, special even among them. And that's what I think.
Special, so tight-knit, played for each other. Yes, there was money there. That is just the reality of this era of name, image, and likeness. And also, remember that this is the longest season that we've ever had in college football. For them to do what they did, 4 games against really, really tough opponents, 2 of them in the SEC, and they blew them out the first 2 games of the playoffs. There's a lot of parallels between 2014 and 2024, and yet there's a lot of things that make this team stand out. Obviously, the most recent championship before this, 2014, so give me a little compare and contrast here.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the field there in Arlington, Texas in early 2015, watching that team hoist the first ever gold trophy. We had never seen it before then, and watching that group, play out in one of the most interesting football seasons I've ever encountered, including this one, considering not only how it started losing to Virginia Tech in week 2, but then the situation of J.T. Barrett getting hurt in the Michigan game, and in comes Cardale Jones, and that tells you, one of the all-time great football stories. You could write a book about Cardale Jones's journey, and that alone was a big part of that story. That team had Ezekiel Elliott and Joey Bosa and Michael Bennett, a bunch of just first-round picks, Darren Lee and Joshua Perry and a bunch of guys who were really, really good college and then professional football players. So, yeah, I just think the similarities from 2014 to this. Actually, I talked to a couple of the guys this morning. I talked to Evan Spencer and I talked to Joshua Perry, and we had a conversation about what they found were similar themes between the teams. Clearly, overcoming adversity is that overarching theme that everybody, looks at. But there is a unique bond when a team – there's a lot of really talented teams that don't win at this level. And it doesn't mean that those teams aren't connected. Those teams could be greatly connected. They just didn't make enough plays to win a football game. So I think we kind of overhype that to a certain extent. But I don't think you get to this level without that. I don't think you get to this level without that buy-in from a bunch of players, even in, as you mentioned, the NIL era, that still buy into the team concept and still believe we before me is the pathway to holding up a trophy at the end of the day. And, there is that arching theme of you take a bunch of stars and have them just check their ego a little bit.
Yeah.
And you can get some pretty special things done, and this team did that.
You know, Ryan Day said throughout these playoffs, the only way that this story gets to be told is if you win. Well, now they've won it, and now we get to really tell the stories that, you know, to be honest, we've been telling for, you know, the last couple of months or so.
Sure.
When you start to look at this team and then you think about what's going to be written about them and how we're going to look back on this team in 5-10 years from now, where do you even begin? Because, you know, we talk about winning this in the NIL era. We talk about all the moving parts. We talk about Jack Sawyer and that incredible play in the Cotton Bowl. Will Howard coming in for his one season with the Buckeyes. I mean, where do you even start, Jerod?
Well, the play of the year to me is the Jack Sawyer return against Texas, because he sort of embodies that entire story of the local kid, the guy who was a Buckeye from birth and wanted to be a part of something special, was one of the ringleaders to bring back many of the players who were considering going pro last year. So I think Jack's single play against Texas is the one that I would always go back to and say, man, that was nuts. I mean, and I would argue, and I wrote a whole column about it for our website, that it's the greatest play by a defensive player in the history of Ohio State football. I truly believe that. An individual single play, just an incredible moment. But I think the season overall, I think, will best be summarized by the failures. You know, Will sliding down 1 second too late at Oregon, and just that surrender cobra moment of just, you know, what are we doing? And then the Michigan deal. Just the inability to get off the field on third down, and offensively what was going on in that game on first down. Oof. Just a really difficult scenario.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you remember. You remember the bad, because I think it helps you better appreciate the good.
Yeah.
And so I think that's all part of that unique story that
we'll never
this
know.
team will tell.
We'll never know if, you know, had they won Michigan, had they gotten to the Big Ten championship, would they still have had this run? There is something to be said, though, about coming back from failure, how you're able to handle it. I mean, we've seen it in sports all the time. I mean, for me, I remember 2019, the Virginia team that won the national championship in basketball. The previous year, they lost to a number 16 seed in the tournament for the first time ever. You think about the Red Sox and how they lost to the Yankees in 2003, came back to win it all in 2004. There's so many examples. So you just have to wonder, like, if that pain, they took that pain from that Michigan loss and turned it into this motivation that you saw over these last 4 games. Real quick before we let you go, early into look into 2025. You think we can do this again? You think the Buckeyes can make it back to back?
Well, I think you're going to be paying a very careful eye on the transfer portal and where players end up going and who maybe ends up coming back. We did learn this morning Devin Brown is leaving, which I know he's in the portal for a while, but he is going to Cal. He'll probably be the new starter at Cal, and weirdly playing in the ACC. Okay. But, you know, that means that Ohio State needs another quarterback in all likelihood. I don't think you feel great going into the season with Julian Sand and Lincoln Kienholz, and that's it. You know, obviously get the Tavian St. Clair, the freshman, but I think you want to have a fourth body at least in there. So that's going to be interesting to follow. But once you get that position settled, whether it is Julian Sand or someone else, there's going to be some rebuilding for sure, especially on the defensive front. It's going to be a completely different unit. But a lot of the folks who will be on that line played a significant amount this year. From an NFL decision, I'm very curious about what Sonny Styles does. He is still a young man. Remember, he entered early into college as a 17-year-old, so he's just barely 20 years old. I mean, what he's going to be able to do, you know, when he comes back, if there's great NIL money for him, we would see Quinshawn Junkins, I think, is in a similar boat. He could go pro, but he could also come back. So there's a lot of decisions that have to be made first. And then we figure out, you know, how good could they be. But on the raw parts analysis, it's a great team. It's a really talented team, highly recruited, and that number 4 guy is still playing next year.
That's right. I
mean, that bails you out of a lot of stuff.
I know, that's very exciting, and you know, you can't help but think, like, okay, we can't wait to see them back again. They'll be facing Texas in that season opener. But what's great,
that'd be wild,
right?
Yeah.
What's great about, though, a win is that you can savor it. Of course, we're gonna savor it all this week, leading up to Sunday's big celebration at the Shoe, and of course, you know, for at least a few weeks or so until we start talking about, you know, NFL draft and then spring ball. Jerod Smalley, always appreciate your perspective as always. We'll catch you next time on the NBC4 Sports Digital Roundtable.